Thanks again for joining us. My name is Karen Corman, and I have the privilege of being the Executive Director of your UIC Alumni Association. Welcome to the UIC Alumni Exchange Series. Through the UIC Alumni Exchange Series, we work to bring our alumni and friends a variety of programs and topics so you can explore, connect, and even escape from the everyday with a community of UIC alumni, faculty, staff, and alumni experts. You'll hear me say this a few times today, but I encourage you to visit go.uic.edu/alumni exchange for the latest and greatest programming. And I'll put that link in the chat here in a few moments. And with that, I'm really excited to start our program this afternoon. As many of us know, not everyone is meant to be an entrepreneur, but there are lessons from the entrepreneurial journey that we can all apply to our career and paths to be more successful. Today, we are joined by alumnus Roddric Sims, who will lead us through how to integrate business planning and an entrepreneurial mindset to help us overcome roadblocks for personal and professional success. Thank you so much, Roddric, for being with us today, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to you to begin the presentation.
All right. Thank you very much, Karen. Truly appreciate it. And hello to all my UIC alums. Truly great to be with you today. We have some very nice weather, well, some very hot weather here in Chicago. But if you've from the Chicago area spent time at UIC, you know the opportunity we have to get 4 seasons in 1 week. So it's probably nothing unusual for those of you who are still here in the Chicago area. But definitely looking forward to spending time with you over the next, I guess, 45 minutes to discuss how taking an entrepreneurial approach to your career can be beneficial. Let's see here. So as you see there, I am an LAS 95 grad, actually majored in psychology. So woohoo to my LAS majors out there. Appreciate you. And I want to give you a little bit, guys, a bit about my background whenever I do these presentations. So I guess it's always good to know who the person is talking to you to see if it makes sense and what they're sharing has a base of expertise. And so after graduating from UIC, I spent 20 plus years in the insurance industry. I actually worked for one organization, actually State Farm Insurance, which I'm sure most people have heard of either one time or another. But in my 20 plus year career, really the last 10 years of my career really relates to today's conversation. I had a very unique role as a talent manager. And in that role, half of my role was as a career coach. I would work with people who thought they wanted to be State Farm agents to help them make the career transition out of a 9-to-5 job to actually becoming an entrepreneur. And then once they made that decision, the other half of my role was to be a business coach, to help them build out a business plan, identify the talent they needed for their team, their customers, things of that nature, put that all into a, what can I say, into a business plan. So that was the additional part of my role. Very unique role where I was a blend of a career coach and a business coach all in the same time for about 10 years. So during that time, I probably coached about 3,000 aspiring entrepreneurs in one-on-one and group settings. So face-to-face, workshops, over the phone, virtual, Zoom, all different types of ways. And so that has led to me really getting a good grasp of the different ideas, the different consistent concerns, challenges, benefits of being an entrepreneur, and how it really also relates to having a successful career as well. So during that time, again, I probably also doing those 10 years as a talent manager. I was probably reviewed about over 1,000 business plans. So that's something we're going to talk about a little bit later and how that is going to be advantageous for your career journey. And I probably participated in over 1,500 interviews where I was a facilitator, helped make the decision, influence the decision rather than not necessarily make it, and all those great things. So I use all that in my experience to also put into writing a book that I penned about 5 or 6 years ago called The 4 E's of Entrepreneurship. Actually, I've written 3 books. So The 4 E's of Entrepreneurship is a mindset book that focuses on before you become an entrepreneur, making sure you understand what you're getting yourself into. I have another book called the Evolve and Elevate, which is a book, an ebook I wrote that focuses really on once you start a business, evolving your business processes and elevating your revenue. So taking it to the next level. And then my last book in print came out last year, which is called The Profit Pathway, which focuses on, hey, now that I have this great business, I really need some actionable items to actually do to take it to the next level. And so that Profit Pathway actually goes into more detail on that. Now, I mentioned earlier that I worked for State Farm for 20 plus years. I'm no longer there. I had the opportunity to take a severance package, or as I tell people, they paid me to go away, which they moved my job to another part of the country. And I decided to go ahead and take advantage of the opportunity. I went back to graduate school to actually get an MBA. Now you're thinking like, sheesh, you've been out of college 20 plus years, you're just getting your MBA. I was like, yeah, it took me a little bit of time because I wasn't sure which direction I wanted to go. I thought I wanted to get a master's in industrial organizational psychology. That passed by. Thought I wanted to get an MBA in HR. That passed by. Thought I wanted to get an MBA in leadership. That passed by too. And so when I left State Farm, I decided to go ahead and be a full-time student. I'll go back and get my MBA in entrepreneurship to help me even assist entrepreneurs even more as they build their businesses. So that's really most of my background. And currently that ties into me being a UIC alum. Over the last couple of years, I've actually been a part-time contract worker with one of the UIC bridge programs called Chance. Chance is a program that's been at UIC 17 years. So if you're an alum like me that's been graduated more than 17 years ago, you may not be familiar with it, but it was started 17 years ago to help recruit, retain, and what I call build the resumes of underrepresented students at UIC. And so for the last 2 years, I've been working in a role as a career coach to assist those students in that program to build their resumes and be more competitive for opportunities once they graduate from UIC. So I think that's enough about me. So we'll move on to talk about what the meat of why you guys are here, to really learn about how to use entrepreneurship in your career journey. All right, so I'm not sure if I mentioned to you guys before, but I'm a coach, and I pride myself in as being a coach. I have a bunch of darn certifications, and I found my love for coaching while I was in corporate America, so I can't really complain about my experience there. But as a coach, there's certain things that we need to do, and most coaches, you start a game, you have a game plan. And so we're going to talk about today's game plan so you have an idea what we're trying to achieve in today's conversation. So number one, the goal today is goals is to help you make a mindset shift. Now, understand, for clarity, I am not trying to convince you to become an entrepreneur. If you want to talk about being an entrepreneur, we can definitely do that on the side and have that conversation. But right now, that's not necessarily, what I am focused on in having that conversation. But if you want to, definitely let's connect after this and have that conversation. But really, the focus today is to help you understand what I've noticed over the years that entrepreneurs do that translates well into helping them take more control of their careers. And so that's what really we're going to really try to focus on today in today's conversation. Now, number two, I mentioned to you before, I reviewed over 1,000 business plans. So I'm going to give you a little bit of insight into the importance of having a business plan. But if you don't have one, creating your own career plan to assist you as you go along this career journey, and give you more information into that as well. And then last but not least, one of the major roles as a coach, is to be an accountability partner, but it's to help people actually identify an action plan to help them be successful and help them, once we make this shift, help them actually do it, right? What are the execution items I can do with this information I've garnered? So we're going to give you some action items to help so you can execute on now making the shift to integrating being that entrepreneurial mindset into your career journey. So we're going to do that. And I'll check back in before we wrap up to make sure that we touch bases on all three of those items as well. All right. I am going to actually throw out a poll question for you guys now. And there it is right there. How many jobs have you had in your career so far? So take a few moments to do that. And then when you finish answering that question, I also want you to take a look at those numbers and see if you have any idea of what those numbers are related to. I'm not going to quiz you on it. I just want you to, see if you have any idea what that means. And if you want to throw it in the chat, you're a guest, feel free to do so. But I'll give it a few more seconds for people to finish the quiz, the poll, and then we'll get started back up. Okay, great. Well, it looks like the majority here, 64% have had 2 to 4 jobs. That's fantastic. That sounds about right. So that relates into a little bit what we're going to talk about today. Now that the poll is closed. So let's talk about these numbers. I'm not sure if anybody guessed right, but 40, that first number there, 40 is pretty much how long you work after you graduate. Let's say you graduate at 22, the average person retires at 62 now. So that means you're going to be working for 40 years, right? Okay, so that's that 40. What is the 4? The 4 aligns with our poll response. So it reflects that we're on the right track. The average person probably changes jobs, every 4 years in their career. If you're changing your job every 4 years and you're going to work 40 years, that equals number 10. You do the math, that's what I learned at UIC. I wasn't a math major, but at least I figured out how to do the simple stuff. So 40 divided by 4 gives you 10. So in reality, most people, the average person is going to probably have 10 different jobs in their working career. Now, you might have more, you might have less, but we're looking at about averaging 10 in your full career. So we already have a few, 30%, about 27% of our people today have had at least 5+. And then we've had another 64% who've had 2 to 4 already. Not sure how old they are, but we have a few people that may already be up to 10. So we'll see how that goes. All right. So one of the reasons it's important to take take control of your career is that you're going to have 10 life-changing decisions along your career path. And as you approach these decisions, it's better for them not to be random. It's better for you to have a plan in how to get there. And so hoping that you take away that the importance of when you make these 10 decisions over your career, you have a plan in making the decisions and they're just not random. I think I saw somebody hand up. Is that correct? Or no?
I didn't see it.
Okay, maybe not. Okay.
But feel free to put questions in the chat too. We can certainly get them to you.
So now that we've gotten those numbers knocked out, let's move on and get into the number side point, because there are people that like numbers. So now you understand the number side of why making this shift might be important for you. When in doing my career in corporate America and as a talent manager, there was a list of about 15 to 20 competencies, or I would have to evaluate potential agents on. Now, I am not going to bore you with going through 15 to 20 competencies or skill sets on today's webinar. That makes no sense. But I do believe it's valuable to identify what research shows and what I feel are the three most important traits that entrepreneurs have to be successful. And once we identify these traits, it's going to relate to it also being three important traits that you'll need as you take your career journey as well. So number one is vision. So as an entrepreneur, before you even start a business, before you even start something, start a small business, you have to have a vision. What are you selling? Who are you selling to? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? So you have to have a vision for your business. And I also agree, hey, you have to have a vision for your career as well. Because I'm a big believer that I tell my clients that are entrepreneurs all the time, if you don't control your business will control you. And I'm the same way with your career. If you don't control your career will control you. You'll wake up and say, 20 years from now, how did I get here? Because your career will make some decisions for you. So we want to make sure that you have the vision in order to take control of your career. So vision is one of the most important traits as an entrepreneur has to have that also relates to a career journey. Now, I feel the second most important trait you have to have as an entrepreneur is ability or competency, is the ability to execute. Nothing gets done without being able to execute. I think some of you have probably seen Shark Tank, or just even on a small end, you had this great idea one day and you're like, hey, this would be a great idea to do something. And then a year, 2 years, 5 years later, you see somebody or you see that product out being sold in the store. And you're like, oh my gosh, I had that idea. So with the billions of people in the world, I always tell entrepreneurs, there's no unique idea. There's just unique execution. Somebody had the same idea that you had, but the difference between them and you is that they actually executed on it, in a way that allowed them to be successful. So you can have a great vision, you can have these great ideas and these great goals, but probably the most important thing is to be able to execute on that vision. So you have to be able to execute. So it's very important that you have that trait, you adapt that entrepreneurial trait of execution into your career journey. And then last but not least, and then this is more of a Roddric put in, there are a lot of other people you go back and forth, but in my experience, adaptability is probably the third most important trait you have to have, as an entrepreneur. I had a client that opened a coffee shop, but they also did pastries. The donuts were fantastic. And what would happen is people would come back for the donuts. And so we ended up having a realization that the person didn't really have a coffee business. They had a donut business. So they had to shift their thought processes around, okay, donuts is what gets people in the door versus, me thinking coffee was bringing them in the door. So sometimes you start out one way and your customers tell you what they really want from you, and you have to adapt your business to what the market wants. It's the same way sometimes in your career. You may have this path that you want to go down in your career, but what happens if the company changes or technology changes and shifts your job? And so as I was leaving corporate America and we were interviewing to bring people in, one of the most important skill sets we were looking for as we brought in new agents was adaptability, the ability to shift with the market. Hey, I've been doing these things this way for a year or two, but technology shifted, the customer's thought process shifted. There's a new competitor in the market. We have to do things differently. So the adaptability piece becomes so important to a business owner. And that's the same way it is in your career. When I graduated a long time ago, the statement was, hey, go find a job where you could be there for 25, 30 years. And actually, I did find a job where I was there 20 plus years. But I don't know how many people are saying that now, especially to people graduating now. Now, I don't have anything wrong with that, but I'll even give you my experience. Even in my role, I went to State Farm. During that time, I probably had 5 or 6 jobs in those 20 plus years I was there. So every 3 to 4 years, along with what we discussed before, I was changing jobs every 4 to 5 years. And so I had to adapt. So for instance, I always tell students that when I was hired into the company, the role I took was great, But when I left, the job that I left, it wasn't even an opportunity when I first started it. So I could never put together a plan to get my role as a talent manager when I first started at State Farm. I just had to adapt my career at different stages throughout the changes of the organization. And when the opportunity in talent management became open and an actual job at the organization, I was able to take advantage of it. So I was able to adapt throughout my career to those different roles. So adaptability becomes key for entrepreneurs, but also, as you build out your career as well. So those are the top 3 entrepreneurial traits that I would definitely encourage you to integrate into your career journey. All right, now let's move on. I might have scared you when I said business plan before. I know most people, when they hear the word business plan, even entrepreneurs, small business owners, they get stuck. They're like, oh my God, that whole paralysis by analysis. And so I want you not to think about a business plan that is 30 pages long, not even, or 10 pages long. I want you to think about a 1-page. And so that's why I encourage people to focus on. So what I'm going to outline for you is really, as I encourage my clients, is let's get started. Let's vet this idea about a business before we invest all this time, effort, and energy into creating this full-blown business plan. So let's do a 1-page, which I call more of a business summary, but it's still a business plan. So it's more of a 1-page business plan. So in that 1-page business plan, I encourage them to focus on these 5 different things here. Vision, like we talked about before. What is going to be vision of your business? What are you selling and who are you selling it to? What are you trying to sell? Are you doing a product? Are you doing a service? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to achieve from launching this business? So what is the vision of the business? The second thing that I encourage my entrepreneurial clients to do is the demographics. You got to understand your market. Who are you going to be selling these products and services to? Because you have to tweak those services and products to that specific demographic. If you don't, then they're more than likely not going to want it. So who are you trying to do business with, right? So identifying who you're trying to do business with. Then next is the marketing plan. How are you going to get your product in front of them? Is it social media? Is it print? Is it face-to-face? What type of working do you have to do? There's a difference between, depending on your demographics. Hey, are you doing Facebook if you got older people like me? Or, hey, are you doing TikTok if you're looking to work with people who are in their 20s or teenagers? You have to understand your demographics in order to be able to create the right marketing plan to get your products and services in front of the right people. Then is that word execution again. So what are the execution strategies? What you're going to be doing on a daily basis to make sure that your business is growing. So it could be from, if you're a restaurant, what's your supply chain look like? When do you start cooking? How often do you have to resupply? All those execution strategies. Or, hey, if you're a coach like me, how am I going to get clients? What do I need to do on a daily basis? Who do I need to talk to? What type of marketing am I using? What do I need to hire a virtual assistant to help me market myself? So what are the execution strategies you need to put in place to help you be successful? And then at the end of the day, the financials is probably one of the most important pieces. Are you making money? I don't think most business owners start businesses to go broke, but that's a whole different conversation that we can talk about offline. But most of the people that I understand, they want to make money in the business. And so look at the financials, what's the return on investment on the, how much you're going to have to invest in the business, those type of things. So those are the things that you can put in a 1-page to really determine if your business is going to even be viable before you even start on the path of launching the business. So with that being said, how do we use this in a career? Well, we use it the same way, but in a little bit of a different way. So from business plan to career plan, right? That's what we're doing, going from business plan to career plan. So we're going to look at the same sections, but specifically more about the career and how it interacts. All right, so here we go. You'll see here that there are different pieces, right? So that vision is more about, okay, do you have a job versus a career? As I do some career coaching, people are just looking at job to job to job without necessarily understanding the career. So I tell people I had an insurance career. I was an insurance professional. I started out in claims. I went into management. I was an analyst. And then I became a talent manager, and I was a supervisor, went back into management. So I had 5 or 6 jobs, but one career in the insurance industry. So when you're visioning your career, are those jobs you're taking aligning with the career, or are you just jumping around? You know, so just to make sure that when you look at that vision of your career, you go away from just looking at each job you take, but are you actually building a career in a field? And if you're building a career in a field, I think it becomes more expansive and you understand the different roles that you're going to take to get there. If you're just focused on the job, you may end up somewhere again that you don't want to be because you're just jumping job to job and it never gets you really to your end game. So when you add the vision piece, it's more about job versus career. You want to focus on creating a career plan, career path versus just jumping from job to job. So what is your career vision? Number 2 is the demographics. And we talked about the demographics of the people that you're going to be supporting. And so, yeah, we're looking at the same thing as well. So what organizations do you want to work with and who do you want to support? And so based on that, you can determine what the qualifications are that you're going to need to have in order to support those people, right? So you may need, if you're into technology, you may have to understand how to code. What type of certifications do you need to be able to get the job that you want? What are those qualifications? What do the people you're going to be working with or your customers, what do they expect your qualifications to be? So you can start positioning yourself to be able to get those qualifications. So it's pretty straightforward there, but it's about making sure you have the qualifications. So your demographics of who you're focused on, getting in front of and working with and helping you, there's certain qualifications they expect. So that will allow you to determine what you need to obtain. Next, marketing plan. So your marketing plan in your career is 2 things. One is your resume. So as you're continuing to build your resume out, when you put that resume down, it shows all the things that you've done. Your resume tells the story of you as an individual, what you've accomplished, what you've done, what certifications you hold, what type of education you have. So your resume is really a part of your marketing plan. This is who you are on paper. This is what I've achieved. And then the other part of that marketing plan is, so there's passive and active marketing, right? So the passive marketing is going to be your resume. It's on paper, you can pass it out, people can always see it. It can even be your LinkedIn profile. So that's passive marketing. Active marketing is going to be networking, getting out and getting actually in front of people and having conversations, letting people know what you bring to the table, what you're trying to achieve, just meeting people, increasing your network. So there's 2 parts of the networking piece in a marketing plan for your career plan, and they include passive, which is the resume building piece, and then networking, which is the active marketing piece. All right, next, you'll see here is going to be the execution strategies. And so basically looking to see what do you need to do on a daily basis to put you in the best position to be successful. And right here, what's listed is really best opportunity. So sometimes as you're working on figuring out what the next job move is going to be, sometimes it's not about the best job, as we talked about before. The job, it's about what's the best opportunity to get you further in your career. So, for example, one job may pay you a lot more than you anticipated, but it doesn't provide any additional development for you to further your career. So you can take that job, but now you may get stuck and be stunted. But hey, there's another job opportunity that's in the field that you want, doesn't pay as much, but hey, they provide some different benefits that you wouldn't get the other opportunity, the other job, and it gives you more experience on the career path that you want to go. So, is it better to take what you feel like is the best job or the best opportunity? I tend to encourage people, when you're looking at your execution strategies, to look at the best opportunity along your career path. So once you've identified, but in order to determine what's the best opportunity, you've had to have the vision to determine what your career path looks like so now you can make the best decisions on what are the best opportunities. Because if you keep taking the best job, you may not end up where you want to be. All right. And then last but not least, we talked about what the financials. Financials are huge because it's, at the end of the day, you're going to work, you're invested in getting a degree, you're going to college to create income. As I tell my students sometimes, you're going to get a degree, so you're buying a degree. And so if you're buying this degree, you're making an investment in your education. So what's going to be the return on investment in education? A big part of that is the income. So as you're doing your research on your career, your jobs, what is the income? And does the requirements or the expenses that it's going to take for you to get there, does it provide you the return on investment that's required? So for some jobs, hey, you might need an MBA. Well, do you really want to go back and invest the amount of money and even sometimes the years to get the MBA? It may be worthwhile, it may not be, but you have to make that decision because that's part of your expenses. Your expenses are going to be financial, but then also your expenses, is going to be time. And as you get older, time becomes more and more important. And so you want to make sure that you're looking at what those expenses are going to be for you to in that career or on your career path. And is it going to provide you the ROI that you're looking for? All right. So before we move on, I want to throw out a poll here as well. Yes, are you where you thought you'd be at this point in your career? Okay, hey. It's almost a tie. All right, the poll has ended 14 out of 14, so the majority says no. All right, so I think there's benefits to having a plan. And so hopefully, as a majority is not where they thought they'd be at this point in their career, hopefully most people are further ahead in their career than they thought they would be at this point. But for those who are not where they thought they would be, hopefully you'll reflect on some of the things I shared regarding creating a career plan that may assist you as you move forward to get you where you want to definitely be as you move forward in your career. And understand this, when I talk to most people, most business owners, most people I coach outside of the university setting around their careers, most people are not where they thought they would be. And sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's bad. What I just preach to anyone is you just want to be in control of your career and your business. You just don't want to end up somewhere. If you go somewhere, you want to be the one that decided where you ended up. And so that's why having a plan for your career tends to be beneficial. All right. All right. Next up, entrepreneurial mindset. I mentioned to you before, I wrote a book called The 4 E's of Entrepreneurship. I think we might provide a link down the road in case you guys want to take a look at it for those who are looking at really transitioning from career to entrepreneur. But when I wrote the book, I saw there were 4 things that entrepreneurs had to get their minds wrapped around in order to be successful to be an entrepreneur. And though that book is called, The 4 E's of Entrepreneurship, which focuses on, as you see here, exposure, economics, environment, and execution. And so I relate these things to students now that I work with at UIC about being able to use these 4 E's to help them even in making their decisions about their career. And so number 1, as you're determining that career path, you want to definitely be exposed to the career. So being exposed to the career is going to help you understand if this is a job or career path you would definitely like to consider. So it's more about doing research, researching the industry, talking to people who are already there, finding a mentor in that industry for that next job or that next career path to make sure, you have gotten some exposure. Because what I will tell you is that everything looks nice from the outside, right? It's like that whole analogy. I'm not sure if you've heard this one, is about, everybody likes sausage until they go into the kitchen and see how sausage is made. Sometimes that's how it is when you get a job. You think that job is fantastic from the outside and you're going to love it, but you're not really sure what it's about until you actually start working. So it's better to get exposed to any job or industry prior to getting into it, so you're making an educated decision about it. The second piece, the second E, as you're developing this entrepreneurial mindset for your career journey, is about economics as an action item. You got to understand the economics. We talked about that before. How much money can you make in a career? And I never tell people how much money they should make in their careers or in their businesses. I just always ask them that the money that you're going to make potentially in that business, can that support the lifestyle that you want to live? Does it provide you the benefits, the time off, the time with your family, the money? There are different pieces to economics, but you have to definitely understand what those trade-offs are. So you have to understand the economic side of it. Before you jump into a career, understand if the economics line up. Next is going to be the environment, and that's really about somewhat of the exposure piece, but this is about actually doing the work. And so sometimes you can't do the work until you do the work, right? So sometimes you may want to, can you do an internship, as I encourage students to do? Take an internship to see if you actually want to work in that field. And you may think, again, it was great, but you might change your mind. One of the best things I did in my UI6 career, I started out as I thought I was going to be a pharmacist, and so I was pre-pharmacy, and I worked at Walgreens. So, because Walgreens, it was retail pharmacy, and they paid the best money for pharmacists. But after 4 years of counting pills, standing up every day, ringing the check, ringing the cash register, and counting pills, I decided that wasn't as much of a dynamic role as I thought it would be. Now, good money, but I felt that I would not really enjoy the job. And so that was like an internship where I really got a good idea of what the environment was. So that part-time job helped me realize that necessarily wasn't going to be the career path I should follow. So sometimes getting in, doing a part-time job, maybe doing an internship, or sometimes it's even volunteering in an office or in a role or an organization, gives you the insight into if that's something that you'll enjoy the environment and what you get yourself into. And then last but not least is execution. Again, you can get exposed to it. You can understand the economics, the money about it, and the environment. But now you do all that, you get the job. Now it's about execution. Are you really going to enjoy the work that needs to take place for you to be successful in that role? Will you do the work? So understanding the importance of doing the work on a daily basis. Will you enjoy the work? Will you enjoy executing in this field on a daily basis? Now, as you create your career plan and you make your decisions about roles and your jobs, if you consider these 4 E's in that decision process, you'll be a long way. We'll go a long way with you controlling your career and you being, I guess, more happy with where you land. Now, I mentioned to you before that we weren't going to have to give you some action items. I can't wrap up and not I help you identify some things that will allow you to be able to take some information that I provided you today and help you move forward. And as a coach, I'm all about identifying action items for my clients. And so the action items I identified in advance of today's conversation were the following, and things I touch bases on. One, we talked about the resume and how important that is from a marketing standpoint. So one thing to do to control your career and use entrepreneurship is to help you, the entrepreneurial mindset to help you control your career. It's just like entrepreneurs update their business plan every year. You probably need to update your resume as well. That's a good thing to do. Versus waiting to the last minute and somebody wants your resume and now you're like, oh my God, I forgot all the things I've done over the last 3 or 4 years. So updating it annually goes a long way with making sure you're ready to market yourself. Number two, we talked about the passive marketing piece, right? And the active marketing. So you need to actively market yourself. And that's where the networking comes into play. You want to try to get out of network. It could be virtually, online, social media, whatever. But doing this networking, the big piece is I always encourage people to really focus on creating centers of influence. And these people may not necessarily always get you the job or get you the interview, but these are the individuals who know what you do. And if somebody's having a conversation, they're looking for somebody, and I think we've all had that call, hey, do you know somebody that does this? Or do you know somebody that would be qualified for this? You want people to know what you're doing. So when they get those phone calls, you're at the top of mind. And so keeping up with your network and letting your centers of influence know what you're doing goes a long way with helping you get those right opportunities along your career path. So grow your network and create those centers of influence, as business owners do. When we talked about for a while, design a career plan. Just like I encourage all business owners to have a career plan, a business plan. I encourage everyone to have a career plan. And again, just a one pager. I'm not asking you to build out a 20 pager, but we're just looking at more of a one pager, so that you have something written down that allows you to actually have the ability to take the journey that you want to take. And then last but not least, as an action item, become a student. Become a student of your industry, where it's going, so that you can be on the front end of the industry. And so if you will need to adapt, you can know what's coming. You want to be in a position to take advantage of opportunities before they get there. You don't want to be the last one jumping on the boat. They say that typically the entrepreneurs who are successful are the ones that are the first movers. They're the people that get in early and before something blows up, and it allows them to make the sorry about that, and make the larger part of the money. So we want to make sure that we are making sure. Hold on one second. All right. Let me get back to where I should be. Okay. Sorry about that. We are going to.
The adaptability you're talking about when the technology doesn't want to work on us.
Yeah, exactly. Had it and I pressed the button too quick and I lost it. So let's share this again. Get you back up. And while I'm doing this, I'll just keep talking a little bit.
I can answer you a question if that would help.
Yeah, go right ahead while I
Okay.
get this squared away.
So I don't want to mess with your flow. So you tell me. But one of the questions that came in was, what are the three most important habits of successful entrepreneurs? So I don't know if 3 is a magic number, or just maybe what you think some of the top things that you've seen.
All right, and so I would say what I tend to see the most, or I think the things that I mentioned a little bit, it's about around execution. People who are most successful, I think, in their well, not just as entrepreneurs, but in their careers, they are executors. And it's just not once in a while. They tend to execute on a daily basis. And so every day they are doing something that's allowing them to actually move their career and their businesses further. And so I tend to always, encourage people to create strategies that allow them to execute every day, not just this is something I'm going to do today and it's going to be helpful, but something that's going to allow something that I can actually do every day that's going to help me build out my business. So that's one of the things. The second thing I would say is a lot of times most people need to, they have an accountability partner in some way. Some people may use a vision board, some may have a friend, some may have a coworker, some might hire a coach like me. But those people tend to be successful. They tend to have accountability in some regards in order to make sure that they're staying on pace to what they're doing. And then the last thing I'll say as an entrepreneur is about grit, making sure everything's not going to go right. And that's going to happen in your career too. And so you need to have the ability to be able to persevere through when things aren't going right. They say the light is at the end of the tunnel. Those things actually do happen. And so you have to also have the ability, that grit to persevere through those challenges. I always tell people that, you see the businesses that are open, but you don't see the 3 or 4 businesses that were in that same location that failed. Just like in a career, people might have been there before, but you get to see this person who's there now, but you never saw the 2 or 3 other jobs that they were at before they got that position, or they might have gotten fired. They get along with the boss before they got to where they are now. So you have to have the grit to be able to get through it.
Which, while I'm biased, we know that UIC graduates have a lot of grit and tenacity.
Whole lot of grit and tenacity. I always say that, definitely. I think I'm back with the poll, right? Am I up and running right now?
Yes.
Great. So I think last poll. Yes. So as a coach, I need you guys, always encourage people to commit to action items. And so out of the things that I shared with you today on those 4 action items, which one do you feel is the one that you're going to commit to help you design your career path? Okay, great. Well, we're pretty even. So the winners were consistently grow your network and create a career plan. So that's fantastic. So those are all great items. Got 13 out of 18, the other 5 people. What's going on? But that's neither here nor there. But I would do this. So now that you've identified that, depending on your accountability, if you already have an accountability partner, I would send an email to someone to say, hey, I'm committed to updating my resume annually. So send that to somebody who will hold you accountable. Or if you're going to consistently grow your network, send it to somebody to find that accountability partner to help you make sure you're doing that. Because if you aren't held accountable, it may never take place, in my experience. So we want to make sure you have an accountability partner. Now that you're committed to something, let's make sure you're being held accountable for it. All right. So in recap, as we wrap up, wanted to hit on those three things today. Mindset shift. So we talked about why it's beneficial to shift your mindset with all the job changes you're going to be having over your career. You want to make sure that you have a plan on how to do it. The benefits of having a business plan as an entrepreneur, but also how to use that as a career, the benefits of having a career plan and what that career plan should be made up. And then we just wrapped up with giving you some opportunities to talk about showing you how to execute on it from the 4 E's, the mindset piece, but also giving you some specific action items that you can take away and start using today to help you take more control of your career path. So we've done that. So I think we finished that part, gotten you to the finish line as your coach. And so now I guess it's time for Q&A if we have time.
Well, Roderick, thank you so much. And I love the action items. I love it when people can walk away with a very tangible, what are they going to commit to doing? So thank you for not only the whole conversation, but for that very tangible, here's what we can do. I'm going to go ahead and do a shameless plug for UIC Connected. And I just, since I saw the majority of folks said to grow their network. So this is a great way to grow your network. So I just put that in the chat, how to access that. Okay, I have two questions that I think I will have time to answer, hopefully. So one of the questions is, how can entrepreneurs decide whether to wait out an unexpected challenge or pivot their business plan? This was in relation to sort of the pandemic. So how do they make that decision if they should wait something out, or if they or when they need to pivot maybe?
Okay. Then we're talking about career pathing for entrepreneurship, but I'll answer that question a little bit different. It's all about the market, right? And so that's entrepreneurship is like wearing a suit. We can all go buy the same suit as a guy, but we all have to get it tailored for our individual fit. So I would honestly probably need to know more about that specific situation to help that individual, because it comes to a few different things. One, what is the market telling you? Have you really read the market properly, and is it still viable? Two, what is your comfort level that you have with all the sacrifices that you're going to need to make for it to be successful, right? Three, how competitive is the market? Are you in a position to win? As I make a lot of basketball analogies, right? So it's like, hey, if you're playing basketball and the average height is 6'6", and you're 5'6", you're probably not going to be a great basketball. So if you're going into an industry where you don't have some advantages, it might not be the right industry for you to be involved in. I just say these things at 1,000-foot level without knowing more specifics. And whoever, if somebody sent that in, I'm going to give my contact information afterwards. If we want to connect and chat about that in more detail and get more specifics and help them with that, I'll definitely be willing to do that. But that's how I would normally say, these are the few things you need to look at as you're trying to make that decision.
Great, thank you. This is a multi-pronged question, so let me read through it.
Okay.
So the question is, what if someone wants to market themselves but not for a career? This person wants to use career experience to find part-time work for the short term prior to retiring. Is age an issue that they should share how many more years they plan to work?
Okay, so I believe, and I work with a lot of people who have a 9-to-5, and then they work a 5 to 9. And sometimes that 5 to 9 is towards, hey, I'm creating a retirement job, or this is a transition job to another career altogether, or it's just some side money because I want to, take a lot of vacations, or I want to, send somebody on to buy something for my kids. It just depends on the individual. So creating a side business is definitely something that more and more people are doing. Freelancers, gig economy, things of that nature. The best way I always encourage people is to think about 18 months out. If you're looking to make a transition or to start your business or to grow it, the best time to start a side business or a new business while you work for someone else, because you have stability, you have income, and you have control, a little bit more control of a lot of things that you won't have control on once you launch the business full time. So my statement would be is to start building your brand out now. And the things that I encourage people to look at. So I'm not sure what social media you're going to be on. If you're going to be on a social media platform, you make sure you get your handle before somebody else does. If you're going to have a website, you go out and buy your domain name of what your domain is going to be now before somebody else buys it. People are out here buying up domain names and selling them back to people for inordinate amounts of money. So get your domain name and then create a website or a holding page. So when people start looking for you online, they at least have, at least there's a presence out there for people when they're looking for you, be it social media or be it online. Because now, or even if it's a LinkedIn profile or something like that, because now most people don't think you're a valid business unless you have a website or some type of social media presence. So at the minimum, if you're looking to, from a marketing standpoint, to transition, start building up your online presence.
Thank you. It's super valuable tips. And I see several people just thanking you in the chat for a wonderful presentation. And I'd like to add our thanks for a wonderful conversation and discussion and interaction. We're so proud that you are a UIC graduate. We're so proud that you're involved. And thank you so much for the presentation today, Roddric. You're just wonderful. Just quickly to close us out, please join us on June 29th at noon Central Time for our next Alumni Exchange program. I almost think this is part 2. While we didn't set it up this way, I think it flows in very well from this conversation. Oftentimes you hear the phrase, it's not work if you're passionate about it. We'll be joined by alumna and UIC Alumni Association board member, Nadia Hill, who will walk us through a series of reflective questions to help us explore ways to turn our passions into purpose. We'll discover how to align our personal drivers and goals into thriving purpose and profitability. Please join us for this exciting discussion as Nadia presents Turning Passion into Profit. You can also find a recording of this episode and our past episodes at the same website, go.uic.edu/alumni exchange. And of course, please be on the lookout for that brief survey I mentioned at the beginning. Thank you again, Roddric. We so appreciate your time, your help, and sharing your expertise and amazing knowledge with us today. Thank you to all of you for joining us for Alumni Exchange, and we look forward to seeing you at a future Alumni Exchange program. Thanks again and have a great day.
Thank you.